And welcome everybody to the F show this week, this very moment. We are in partnership with AIM, the Africa in Motion Film Festival that is taking place in the UK, but because it's online, it is really taking place around the world with the discussions that are really exciting. Today, we are talking about intergeneration. Our guests are in the art sector. The wonderful actress Clementine Mosimani from Popinongena, a visual artist from the University of Johannesburg, and an animator all the way from Iran, sitting in Tehran. So, how do we learn from each other? How do we support each other? How do we bring in intergenerational support and partnership? We are hoping that our actress Clementine Mosimani will eventually join us online. She's having some difficulty with her sound, with her audio. So what we will do though is just go directly to a clip of her having a radio interview. Can we show that please, Justine?
Let us turn our attention to the inimitable, the vivacious Clementine Mosimani, who joins me this morning in studio. Now, The Long Journey of Popinongena is a classic piece of South African literature. It's taken about 40 years for Elsa Joubert's novel to make it to the big screen. It's the true story of a South African Xhosa mother whose life revolves around finding stability for her family during a period of insufferable upheaval in the country. That's the pretty verbiage. The bottom line is the devastating past laws upend her life. She's a domestic worker whose life is upended by the devastating past laws and is constantly trying to get back to home, and home being where the heart is, not where the house is offered. Good morning, Clementine Mosimani. Welcome to Breakfast with Refilwe.
Good morning, Refilwe, and I'm so humbled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. So first of all, I must congratulate you. Popinongena is already an award-winning film, winning 12 awards at the Silver Scarum Film Festival, and one of those, of course, was for Best Actor for you.
Yes,
Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much, Refilwe.
For anyone who's not aware, you're no stranger to awards. You've won the Golden Horn as Best Actress in a soapy, TV soap,
yes.
And we've seen you in Soul City, amongst others. Tell me, when you look at what's already occurred with Popinongena, how does this compare to other characters that you've played?
Yeah, Popinongena, because she is a real person, a real South African icon, a real woman of hope, a real woman that was faced with this horrible, horrible system of South Africa. For her to be having a work permit to be working in her madam's home, that was for me humbling, and that was for me an honor.
Right.
And I must just say, for those who don't know Popinongena's real name, because we have met with her family last night,
Yes.
her name is Eunice Ntombizotumo Ntsata.
That's my middle name, Ntomzotumo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Eunice Ntombizotumo Ntsata. And I met with her two sisters last night, Unomonde and Ueni. And we also met her two daughters and her son.
Wow.
And the daughters' names are Nomteto Ntsata, Nosipho Khoto, and Menzeki Ntsata. Menzeki was the young boy who was in the film playing Weekend.
Thank you. Sis Clementine, I hope you are there and you can hear us. If you are not as yet, I think what is important for our guests who have joined us, as we talk about intergeneration, we're talking about how we support each other, particularly in our field of arts and culture, animation, visual art. So I'm going to go to Azadeh. Azadeh is sitting in Tehran, in Iran, and she actually came to South Africa to help us with workshops for children and animation. Azadeh, welcome to the F show. We have something that we would like to show before we actually come directly to you. So please, Justine, can we show those animations?
Being saved from COVID-19. A film by Roshana and Mama Aziz, done in quarantine. Hop, 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 hop. Doop, 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 doop. Africa, Manu Paramisu.
Wow, thank you, Azadeh.
Yes,
This is the work
I
that-
fidgeted and fiddled.
there you are, Clementine. How are you here?
I'm good. How is everybody?
We are very good. I'm so glad you connected.
After a battle,
Please tell us about this amazing role, this wonderful work that you have done.
Poppy Nongena, the movie. I was playing the role of Eunice. She was a Black South African woman living in South Africa. And as you know, we come from the apartheid era, whereby we felt like strangers in our own country, whereby when you had to leave the Black townships to go and work in the white suburbs, expired after a certain period, and then you had to go and reapply for it. But unfortunately with Eunice, because she had married a guy from Transkei, then they said to her, because the husband was from Transkei, she cannot work in Johannesburg, even though she was in Cape Town. She was born and bred in Cape Town. And they were forcing her not to get that work permit because of the husband who came from the Transkei. And mind you, Transkei was still part of South Africa, as it is today, is still part of South Africa. But the government of the day was trying to get rid of Black people, trying to get rid of Black families, tearing them apart. And Eunice just had to stand her ground that she is not leaving Cape Town. She is part of South Africa. Come what may, she will stay. Her family can rather go to Transkei, but she will continue to work and put food on her table, even though she didn't have that work permit.
Yes, your performance in that film was phenomenal. Just to let you know that I watched the film as one of the judges for the SAFTAs, the South African Film and Television Awards. And then I watched it again last night because of today's conversation and that it is showing as part of AIM, the African Motion Film Festival. What we want to talk to you about, Sis Clementine, is the relationships, the intergeneration, because that's what happened to Poppy, as you call her, Mum Eunice. She had to take care of the family.
Yes.
She had to take care of the children. She also had to take care of a white family, a totally other family
Yes.
that she's also responsible for, which we understand is so much part of our legacy in South Africa. Can you tell us about yourself, your own family, and the work that you do as a family, as a mother, as an aunt within your community?
I come from a family whereby my grandmother was working in the kitchens. She was a Cape Townian by birth. She spoke Afrikaans. She couldn't speak any African language. And my mother was a journalist. Same was my dad. And my mother had to go and study in the Free State. She studied in the medium of Afrikaans, the same language that South Africans were revolting against as a medium of instruction. So she went to school at Stoffberg Gedink School, whereby she studied in Afrikaans as a journalist, and then she came back and then she worked. But the privilege I had a mother that was working that didn't need to apply for a work permit because of her profession. But my grandmother had to. I'm working today. I am still a breadwinner. My mom has passed on. My dad has passed on. I'm separated from my husband. Even then, when I was still married to my husband, I still had to be the breadwinner. And it is unfortunate that with today's society, you find that the woman or the mother is the strong gender that has to stand up, that has to roll up her sleeves, that has to say, my family I will take care of. For some reason, the women are the rocks. They are so strong. The men have just given in. The men are just the weakest link. And unfortunately, even today, we still find young women taking care of men. We still find women being the gender that is more employed than the men. And the men, if they do not have any work to do, they can rather loiter around, but the woman will always make a means to put food on her table. The woman will always make a means to keep the family together. The woman will always make a means to see that her children are in school. The woman will always see to it that there is love in the family. There is peace in the family. There is unity in the family. A home without a mother, you can always see it with a curtain, even when you're walking around in the street. That's how God created a woman. And I don't know why did God do that, but God did. And that is how our society is today, even today in South Africa.
Thank you, sister. We have just seen Azade's animations that she did. She worked with children in South Africa and with her own children and children in Iran. And a lot of it had to do with currently with COVID. So I want to bring Azadeh in. Azadeh is a mother. She's a wonderful woman, a wonderful animator. Azadeh, talk to us a little bit about your work.
Actually, I work in animation industry here, mostly in writing, but I had many workshops with children here and outside, as you mentioned it in South Africa. And it's very a really exciting experience for me to work with children, because in that time when I came to South Africa, my own child was a little young. I couldn't work with her animation, but when I came to South Africa and I worked with the children there, I gained a very strong experience with working with children, and it was important for me that children, how the way they think, we sat together and we think about the stories we are going to make. I had no idea. I mean, when I worked in Iran, I had, for example, different stories that I gave to children. So I wanted, I asked them to, for example, draw a character according to the story I told to them. But in South Africa, I asked children to make the story themselves. I wanted to gain the story from them, from their culture. And it was interesting for me that children there, I have many drawing from the children that they draw, for example, many of them, they draw butterflies and lions. And I think it's because it is Africa and lions and butterflies are there. I don't know. There are so many of, of these characters there. Yeah.
Yes.
And they wanted to make stories with these characters.
Yes.
Yeah. And as you see, as you watched the animations, the second and third was the animations which children there have made. For those that we had not very much. I made animations with my cell phone. Actually, our camera was my cell phone, and sounds children made themselves. and they had very fun making the sounds themselves. And they were excited that their characters are moving, and because for many of them, it was the first time that they experienced the animations, the moving characters. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite
Yeah.
exciting because they'd never had animation before. So
Yeah.
you brought a
Yeah.
whole new world for them. Okay, we're going to go to Caitlin right now. Caitlin, we're going to show a little bit of your work before we introduce you. But I would also like you to consider the intergeneration. And I think it's quite a positive perspective because you will talk about your dad, who was in fact quite a supporter in your work. So let's have a look, please, Justine, on Caitlin's work. Justine, have we got Caitlin? There we go. So if we can just go to see the actual art that's further down, I think, the pictures. There we are. So Wati River. Caitlin, you can talk to us as you see it.
Okay, so my family came from India as indentured laborers between 1906 and 1911. So I'm a fourth generation South African. My grandparents and their parents and their grandparents were indentured laborers. So my grandparents grew up on the farm, or farms rather, in Sawati, which is basically a farming community that was designated for communities and families that lived through indenture. So it was an area that was utilized to give to people that served out more than 2 terms of indenture. So my family was given a plot of land, which was later bought by a different family, but they continued to live there and farm on the land. So much of my work revolves around using their photographs, printing them as etchings, and then translating them back into digital prints, which is what we saw earlier. So I come from a family that is my parents are divorced and I stay with my dad. So my dad plays a very big role in how I make my work because he's my biggest critic. If it doesn't look nice, he's going to tell me that I can do better. So he's my biggest supporter in that sense. And I'm busy setting up my final exhibition, which opens on Monday. And if I need something, it's just, here's my credit card, just go do it. Just tell me when it's over. So he's been very supportive of that. But also, I come from a typical Indian family where I've got cousins that are studying to become doctors and chartered accountants and teachers. And here I am studying art, getting no less than getting my master's degree in it. So it's quite an odd place to be in because my dad runs his own business. My mom works in an account position for her company. So there's a strange thing that happens with me being an artist. But again, my dad, when I sat him down when I was in grade 12 and I said to him, listen, it's art or nothing, he was just like, go for it. So because we live in Johannesburg, I needed to go to Durban quite often to speak to family members, to engage with photographs, with the actual land that's there. And he's always super willing to come down to Durban with me and play some golf while I do my thing. But for me, it's the thing of when I was in my fourth year of studies, so my honors, I realized that our archives in South Africa are designed in a specific way. And so many of our stories just aren't being told because it's not part of a formal archive. So we have stories like Poppies, where if it isn't written about, it won't be told and no one will learn about it. So that intergenerational aspect comes from speaking to people older than us about their lived experience, about how they fought to be included in land, in issues of land in South Africa, which is so bizarre because I mean, my family had to have working permits as well. And if they weren't in the right area at the right time on a specific day, too bad. And, you know, as a 24-year-old in South Africa, that's just bizarre to me. It wouldn't make sense that I wouldn't be allowed to travel to a different province if I didn't have a specific set of documents, or hang out with the friends that I have because we're from a multicultural background. I went to a preschool where I was having mealie meal porridge. You know, so my experience as a young woman in South Africa is due to people that continued to push boundaries, to continue to fight against the apartheid government. And I guess we wouldn't be having this conversation if that didn't happen.
Absolutely. And so, Sister
Exactly.
Clementine, I want to come back to you because it
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that important about ensuring that our stories are told. And that
Yes,
they are told by strong performances, which is really what you did in Poppy. I have to say halala, halala, because you were wonderful in the performance that you embodied this woman so beautifully. Tell us about that process for you, getting into character. And then, as you say, Afrikaans is it's your living language. And we know that Afrikaans is what we fought. I
Yes,
was a
ma'am.
student activist. I went to prison fighting the system. So to hear you is also so important. Tell us this.
May I say thank you very much to the director I had, Christian Olivachen. Thank you to the supporting cast that I had and the cast that was working with me. My director was very brilliant. And because of the background that he has of theater, he brought it into the filming aspect of performing Poppy Nongena. But also because I grew up in the Black society, whereby I always listened and heard the stories of our grandmothers, of our aunts, what they underwent under the system and working in the kitchens. That resonated with me. And for me to have worn Eunice's shoes, Poppy's shoes, I had to tell myself that I have to do justice to this woman. It's not only about a political story for me, it was also about a woman in South Africa, and not only a Black woman, but women in South Africa. Because if you look at the story of Poppy Nongena, it is the story of the writer, the story of the woman who sat down as women and said, what are you going through? Can I please enter your world and you tell me what is your lifestyle like? So we were learning from each other, which is something that our government is owing us. And for me to have performed it the way I did is because I had to feel her pain. I had to feel her emotions. I did it for every woman in South Africa who fought the struggle, who never had her story told, those who had their stories told, and those who still want their stories to be told.
Yes. Azadeh, I want to ask you, because where you come from, the women in Iran are strong and powerful. They are very good storytellers. They are good writers. They are very good filmmakers. And I think sometimes in the Western world or outside of Iran, people don't know enough about that. Just tell us about the amazing people in your circle.
Well, yes, you're right. Here, women are struggling very hard. You know, we have many good writers, filmmakers, and as you said, many women in different positions. But um, uh, there are some, I think, political issues that people outside Iran thinks that women in Iran has problem, although there are many problems too, with the family, with the law, with the everything. For example, women in Iran, they can't be president. They cannot be elected as a president, and they are not in high positions, in not in political positions, but in different companies. Always the people look like this.
Down. They
But
look down. Yes.
yeah, but yes, they are struggling hard and hard and hard, and um, they actually show themselves with their works, with their arts to people. Um, I think the problem, as I said, is somehow political. The people outside Iran, I think they don't want to see that that women are trying to be what they are. They are to uh, down them, to use them as a uh, political weapon, you know what I mean? And I think in any country like my country, which are not the um, what we say, um, third world countries, uh, the countries that are superior don't want the people to be high. They want to put them low.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So they don't want to show us how good you are. Because I
Yeah.
think what I'm trying to explain to the audience and to Caitlin and also Sis Clementine is that when I've been to Iran many times, the women are very, very strong. You get filmmakers, you have camera persons, you get sound, you get animators. So women have equal status in the quality, the very high quality of art and filmmaking in Iran. And so because of CIFEJ, we are members, Azadeh and I are members of CIFEJ, which is the International Center of Films for Children and Young People. We work in that area. We've got members globally. And our work is really to ensure the voices and participation of young people in storytelling, in filmmaking. That's really important for us as Clementine. So just to give you also context of some of the work we do internationally. Caitlin, I want to come back to you because you are the youngest and it's intergenerational, which is fantastic. And we are so proud that you at 24 can be doing your master's in visual art. And as you say, not typical for an Indian girl child to be doing that, because as Indians, we're supposed to be in the sciences, right? We have to be medical doctors and engineers and chartered accountants. How dare you do visual art? So I can hear that in what you struggled. But tell us a bit about that, about the tenacity. And, you know, it's so exciting that you're opening up your exhibition on the 16th of November.
Yeah, tenacity is definitely it. I had a lecturer.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a lecturer in my first year that said, if you're not tenacious, you're not going to make it here. And so you had to be tenacious and hungry and you had to have agency and an urge to survive it. It's a tough environment to be in. The working hours are insane and finishing my document was insane, but it's done. So yeah, my dad, I think at an early age realized that I'm not going to do the traditional thing or be the traditional child. So he at one stage took me for art therapy because my parents got divorced and I needed an outlet. And because of that, I realized that there's something there. I had an ability to draw from a young age, but also I was really passionate about it as a teenager. So he allowed me to apply to university and then paid my way through university. And I think for him, when I started working with history a lot more in my later years at university, it became clear to him that, you know, there's a way to integrate history and literature into art in a meaningful way. So I deal a lot with family photographs, but also the history of indenture and apartheid. So things that are overlooked in family archives, things that have been overlooked in formal archives, I've made use of in my work. And so it is opening on the 160th anniversary of indenture, which to me is a celebration of where people like me came on ships hungry for a new beginning in South Africa. And this marks the end of my journey as a student at UJ. And so it's fitting that it opens on the anniversary, because it's a story about my family and where we come from.
Wow.
Sis Clementine, yes, it is a wow, hey, that this young woman can actually
Yeah, it is a wow.
manage that. Go ahead, sis.
We congratulate you. Thank you for the courage. Thank you for your father that is supporting you. Thank you for telling these stories. As you said, our stories are not told. Our children in schools are still taught about Jan van Riebeeck, which is not relevant. And they didn't even know about Popinongena.
Yeah.
Even today, the elderly people you tell them, you talk about Popinongena, they still want to know, who is Popinongena? What did she do?
Yeah.
And you start afresh relating the history of South Africa, where we're coming from. I remember before we launched, I had so many interviews, and I had white people interviewing me, and they were saying to me, we are so sorry because we didn't know what it meant, what apartheid meant. They only heard about apartheid, but what apartheid did, they never knew what it meant. And I said to them, if you didn't write the book, if you didn't make the laws, we have nothing to apologize for. But the only thing we can do is for us to hold hands and to start redeveloping a new South Africa, because we cannot shy away from our history. We cannot shy away from apartheid, but we can build a new South Africa of unity.
100%.
Which is really, really important, yes. So, Sis Clementine, I also want to ask you, in the film, we see bits of the 76 uprisings and the fact that your character's children have to go to Transkei, to the Bantustans, to the so-called homelands. That transition, all those images, which are very stark and very real. How was that for you and the baby on your back? You know, I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about it. The grandchild that is on the back of Popinongena and gets killed, hit by a stone and dies. And then the most beautiful, powerful moment when Poppy does that and she gives the Black Power salute at the end. I thought that was just phenomenal. Tell us a little bit about that process for you.
You know, the process of walking through the streets where they had those rocks in the street, where they had the soldiers, it brought back memories, because I know when 76 happened, I was just from primary school going to high school. And my mother was in the middle of June 16, because she was dealing with the Tsietsis and the Khotsosiatlos, because they would come and fetch her and invite her to come to their meetings. And it brought back a vivid memory of 76. I remember there's also a scene where the youth was fighting with the elderly people. When they were rehearsing that scene, it was so real for me. I broke down in the rehearsal. That's how real it was. It just took me back. And it was just saying to me, this is what a woman, what a mother in the world forget about South Africa, but the world. That's how God has created us in every country. Like we hear in Iraq, the women are suffering and they are strong in the midst of their suffering. So when you go through that process, there is this knot that builds within you. And this knot that says, I am not willing to break until I make a breakthrough. So I had to decide, my children are sent to Transkei and I have this child on my back. I am fighting for a future and a brighter tomorrow for this child. The next thing, this child is struck by a rock or by a bullet. And it is like, what is this fight for? Where is my journey going to? Is it stopping here? Or am I going to continue with that battle? For the best of South Africa or the world to be at, a soul must die in order for another soul to live on. And I think that was the story, that even though Poppy lost her grandchild, there were other children that were coming after her grandchild. And she had to see to it that they are not going to live the life that she lived. And unfortunately for her, she had to die a year before she could make her take of saying, Aluta continua. And that sign at the end was just saying, the struggle has not ended, but it has just begun.
Struggle continues. Struggle continues. I want to come to you,
Aluta
Andrea, because
Yes,
young
ma'am.
people around the world, whether they are in Iran, in South Africa, in the US, especially with the Black Lives Matter that we just saw that was in our faces. In Iran, how are the young people dealing with struggle, with political issues? Are they empowered? Are they strong? What would you say? How is it in Iran, Azadeh?
You know, here in Iran, the ordinary life is mixed with political issues always. Children are always in the middle of news and everything. But I myself try to keep, for example, my child aside of the news. I try. I cannot do my 100%, but I try to keep it away from the bad news, because political news most of the time are bad news. And I prefer the children not to think about these matters, because it is very soon to be struggling with these matters. But as I said, it is inevitable, and they are in the middle of these things every day. Yeah.
Yes. So if we come back to the work that we do as artists, as creatives, as performers, as storytellers, as writers, I think that is really our strength. That is our journey. That's the gift that we have and that we can pass on. So Caitlin, as a very young artist, having had the support, which is wonderful, from your dad, from your cousins, from the intergenerations, really. How has that been, and where do you see your future? What do you think? I know that right now your future is just that exhibition on Monday, but beyond that, because the work that you have done is so important, and so important for the generation of people that you come from. As you said, people came on ships, on boats, they worked, you know, in the sugarcane plantation, but here you are, and you are celebrating that. Tell us what you see.
Actually, I had a job interview this morning with the Wits Art Museum. So I'm hoping that wherever I end up, I still, an aspect of teaching is part of it. I think that there's a a desperate need for people my age to instill some agency in people younger than myself. That, you know, these shared histories and these shared traumas are something that we can reflect on in a meaningful way. So I'm hoping that wherever life takes me next, I'm still able to utilize these aspects of struggle and put my own spin on it, my positive outlook on it, and say, you know, despite everything, we need to overcome it and look towards creating a better society for ourselves and for people to come.
Sis Clementine, as a performer,
Wow.
as an actress, as an award-winning actress, what are you doing? Are you creating opportunities for younger people, for the youth in terms of performance?
In terms of performance, yes, I am having youth that come to me because unfortunately we've been having COVID. We couldn't be meeting with people and young people to talk about the future of the arts in South Africa, but we are having a lot of kids that are keen in it. And also we are saying to them, as storytellers, it is not about glamour, but it is about telling stories, relevant stories, because you cannot be a storyteller and not do your research and not have information. It is not about the beauty of it, but it is so painful because you have to wear the shoes of those people who were in the wilderness, in the field, fighting the battles. So I'm hoping that as we go to level 1 and things open up, then we will start to have our classes again with the youth, start talking about where the future is taking us. We have a pandemic that is said to be a COVID-19, and we have to create stories around it. How has it affected us as a country? How has it affected us as a nation? How has it affected us as the world? How has it affected us as mothers? Because still we find ourselves as mothers holding the knife on the sharp end.
That's true. Azadeh, what about you? Any more workshops? I know you've been doing all of this wonderful work within quarantine. You have produced animations with children. What's the future? What will you be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I hope it will be continued. Although the lifestyle is changing, everything that we are doing now, it's online. The schools are online, everything, classes are online, even jobs are online. And I hope to have more workshops with children, but I don't know when I will have the physical gathering. But as I had one of the animations which you had said was the online actually supervising about COVID-19. Yeah. And I hope I don't know what will happen in future, but I hope it will continue. The making,
better.
yeah, it's completely unpredictable.
We don't know what. Yes, we have no idea.
Yeah, but I try to. I try at least with my daughter, which is beside me. I try to make another animation, and she is interested in it. She becomes interested in making animation, more animations, and we talk together about different stories because she is at home and she goes nowhere because as I said, schools are online, and we have more time together to talk about the stories, to talk about different aspects, and I hope that at least we too make more animations, we create more art.
Yes. Well, I think that's what's exciting for me anyway. You know, the F show, Sis Clementine, we started the F show on the 16th of June. And we did it precisely because we were commemorating June 16th. And I think we now, Justine, who's sitting in the UK, and I had decided that we wanted to, because usually I'd be traveling around the world,
Yes.
meeting all you wonderful people, but I'm now sitting in my office and I'm doing it online.
Yeah.
So in a way, what COVID has done is it's allowed us to talk to each other in ways that we probably would not, and to find opportunity to really push the boundaries and to say, we need this conversation, it's
Yes.
more important. And I have a
Yeah.
friend
So
who always says, yes, she calls it the matrix. She's like, oh my God, I'm in that matrix, and she struggles with it. For me, it has become a
Sure.
very open space. And I feel there's a new kind of democracy
Yeah.
with it, because everybody wants to share and learn. And so this has been fantastic. So usually when we come towards the end of the F show, we ask our guests, all of
Yes.
you, to tell us what F means for you. For me, F is my name, Firdaus, and I always say F is for freedom. So I'm going to come to you, Caitlin, as the young one. What does F mean to you? And if you have any closing remarks, and then we'll go around the table.
I'm not going to use the one that comes first to mind, so I'm going to go
Okay. No.
with friends, because my friends have been incredible. Yeah, no, I'm going to go with friends because my friends have been incredible in terms of helping me just survive the last few weeks.
So F is for friends. That's lovely. Azadeh,
Yeah.
what is F for?
Maybe it's for family, because we are as a family here, and everybody around the world, we are here without borders, and we have one aim together to have a better life with our art, to create a better life with our art as a family.
Yes, and because you're with your daughter, which is so wonderful that you have gotten
Yeah.
close together, which I think is
Yeah.
so special. What about you, Sis Clementine? How are things for you? Where are you based? What is the work going on? And then you can tell us about F.
Where I'm based, God has been very graceful. I'm starting a new production on Monday, and I finished another one in September, and we're continuing to tell stories. So the F for me is for us to continue to fight a good fight by telling stories that are going to make us grow and educate us and give us knowledge, understanding, and wisdom.
That is so important. So I just want to know, when are you based in Johannesburg or in the Eastern Cape or Western Cape? Where are you sitting right now?
I'm based in Johannesburg. I'm in
Okay.
Soweto. I'm in Johannesburg.
You're in Soweto right
Yes.
now. Okay. I just wanted to know where exactly. So the
Yes,
thing
ma'am.
about,
Yes.
about COVID, because yesterday our president was talking to us, and we know that globally the numbers are increasing. Japan is in a third wave. They say there's 1 million people infected now in the UK. Iran, Azadeh, you were saying, is also it's very bad at the moment. We have been asked, obviously, to continue the COVID protocols, which is really wearing a mask, social distancing, making sure that we wash our hands or sanitize our hands. This has become part of the mantra. Where you are sitting, Sis Clementine, is that happening in Soweto? Are people able to do it? Is it possible to have social distance?
To be honest, where I am living, people are living in shacks in part of Soweto. People are living on top of each other. Social distancing is not practical. You have people, 10 people living in a shack. You go out of that shack, you are literally on top of the next shack. So social distancing for Black people in townships is really not happening because it is not practical. It is not that type of a society that you can say, yes, I don't talk to my neighbor. If I don't have food here, or my neighbor doesn't have food, they'll come and knock at my door. They don't care whether there's social distancing or not. The tummy is hungry. They've got kids to feed. They know Sis Clementine is next door. They know she can help. They will come knocking. I will not chase them away. I must give them food. And that is what we are dealing with. And that is the practicality of it.
And so important, that Ubuntu. So important. Azadeh, what about Iran,
Yes.
in Tehran?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, people here almost wear mask, and they try to have social distances, but in public transportation they cannot have the social distances because we have not very good public transportation. So they must go, for example, on a bus, on a metro, and works are not they are not off from their works. Some of the people should go there. They cannot be online. So there are there are problems, but wearing mask and washing hands, yeah, they do this, but the social distances, no.
Yeah.
They
Kate,
cannot.
and I know that you are having a social distance opening of your exhibition. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my exhibition will happen via Teams, and then if people want to come and look at it, they can book via appointment with either Nilofer or myself to have a walk around. So I think we're allowed to have groups of 6, and that's the cutoff limit in the physical space. But online, yeah, online it is.
Online.
Yeah.
Sis Clementine, I want to give you the last words because we are here to celebrate you, to celebrate the film Popinongena, to celebrate with Africa in Motion because it is on currently in the UK and globally because these kinds of conversations are online. So anybody can, click on Facebook or YouTube and be part of the conversation. So I want you to tell us in closing the experience for you as the actress. You've told us so much about the storytelling and about coming to grips with a character that you were so familiar with. But I think we need to know what the message is, both from the political side, from, I think, the storytelling side, and from the artistic side.
I will start by saying I like to honor every woman in the world, every woman, because we have our different journeys in our different countries. And sometimes when we engage in dialogue, you find that there's a common ground and a common point where we meet at with the same issues that are affecting us as women. And having said this, Popinongena, politically, it is a story that affects women in different continents, different countries in different ways. And it is a story, a social story of women who are caring about each other. You look at Poppy with her boss. When she was leaving, that woman was in tears. Not because she was crying because of somebody who's going to serve her, but she was crying because of somebody she had a relationship with. Irrespective of that, she was looking after her kids, she was cooking in the kitchen, but they had a relationship. And the way they parted, it's not the way she was expecting them to part, but it was because of the system. And the message I have is, as women, let us learn to respect each other. Let us help to fight each other's battles in a very positive and very cautious manner. Today in South Africa, we have a huge problem of GBV, gender-based violence, where women and children are being attacked. And you ask yourself, if this woman is the one that is seeing to it that there's bread on the table, there's clean clothes for the father, there's clean clothes in the wardrobe, the house is kept clean, why must she be attacked? It is a battle that we have to fight as women. And it takes me back to say, as mothers, we raise these boys, we raise these men. And how are we educating them? What education are we giving to them? Because on the other hand, as women, we are also to blame. And which is a topic we can go into some other time, because you find that I want to choose a wife for my son. I want to mingle into his business and take his part as a man instead of instilling discipline and order in him. And when the situation has run out of control, it is stuck with us women, because we bring them up in a way that makes them angry, that makes them bitter. South Africa, because of the apartheid system that we had, it is also responsible for breaking up families where we had to raise our children without the father figure and only the mother was in the house. And the list goes on. It is women snatching husbands from other women. The list goes on. And as women, we've got to instill integrity. We need to have character as women, as mothers, as sisters. We need to have that character, because I believe if the foundation is correct, then the roofing will be in order.
Thank you, sis. So I think, Azadeh, you did hear the word Ubuntu in South Africa. I am
Ubuntu.
because you are. And we always take care of each other. So I want to thank you for today. This was a wonderful conversation. Caitlin, we wish you all the very best with your opening of the exhibition on the 16th of November. At what time is it online?
6:30.
At 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
Which would be 4:30 GMT. So for those people who would like to be part of it, we should, put a shout out there. Azadeh, we want to thank you for the work you do for young people, the animation, the training, the development. You are always a wonderful partner and friend, and I want to thank you so very much from the depth of my heart for the work on the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival that we did together, and for our work at CIFEJ. And our sister,
thank you too.
We love you. Your work is phenomenal. You are articulate and clear, and I think everybody enjoyed Popinongena. You really inspired us. You did breathe in wonderful life, and that is so, so important. I wish you all well. Take care. Thank you to AIM, the Africa in Motion Film Festival, for this wonderful partnership. Those of you in the UK, please go out and buy some tickets. There are still passes for all the films, and it's going on until the end of November. So do go out and buy a pass. It's about £20 and support African cinema. And see you again. Tomorrow we have another show on memory. Memory is a weapon.
Yes.
And we'd like you to join us on that conversation. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
We wish you well too.